All right, it's classic movie pick and review of the week. This week, we're taking it back. We're going to 1968 Bronx, coming of age story, Vietnam, armored truck heist with crazy face paint. Yes, if you've guessed correctly, we're watching Dead Presidents by the amazing Hughes Brothers. Now let's get into it.
Welcome to the Asia Esterak Hour, where film meets conspiracy and pop culture gets a reality check. From sharp recaps to sci-fi theories and media deep dives, Asia Esterak serves it unfiltered. Let the binge begin.
All right, welcome back to the Asia Esterak Hour. I'm Asia Esterak. And this week's classic movie pick and review is the amazing, outstanding Dead Presidents by the Hughes Brothers. Came out in 1995. I think I was in 10th or 11th grade. I remember I begged for this movie for Christmas. I got it. I must have watched that tape 11 times that morning. Amazing. Anyway, so Dead Presidents came out in 1995. It's directed by the Hughes brothers, Alan and Albert Hughes, African-American identical twin brothers. They're most notably famous for their breakout film, Menace to Society. Great movie if you haven't seen it. Some of their notable other works, From Hell with Johnny Depp, based on the graphic novel by Alan Moore, another great movie. And probably notably, arguably, one of their best films, The Book of Eli, starring Denzel Washington. That movie's super dope. Please watch it. The movie is produced by Michael Bennett. He did Serpent in the Rainbow, Return of the Living Dead. Also produced by the Hughes brothers and Daryl Porter. Daryl Porter, say that 5 times, is mainly known for producing documentaries. His biggest one is the one about Miles Davis. Brilliant. All right, so the film is written by Michael Henry Brown. Michael Henry Brown also wrote the amazing street cult hit In Too Deep, another great movie, scored by Danny Elfman. First of all, so all these years, I thought that Mark Mancina had scored Dead Presidents. Mark Mancina tends to do a lot of action adventure. I think he did the first few Bad Boys films. He does a lot of Jan DuPont films. Jan DuPont did Speed. I believe he did The Day After Tomorrow. No, he didn't. Scratch that. But Jan DuPont also did The Haunting. A lot of action adventure films. That seems to be Mark Mancina's speed. So I totally thought he had scored this film. Completely wrong. Danny Elfman, who's known for doing a lot of Tim Burton movies. You know, he is from the famous 80s punk rock band Oingo Boingo. But he scored Dead Presidents. And it just shows his range. He's so much more than the Tim Burton movies, which he's noted for. And he does a fantastic job on those. But this was dope. I'm talking a lot. All right, so the cinematography was done by the amazing Lisa Renzler. Lisa Renzler also did the cinematography for Menace to Society, as well as the Academy Award nominated film Pollock, about the artist Jackson Pollock. She's fantastic. Shout out to the women. The film is edited by the amazing Dan Lebenthal. His career is insane. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights. He's known for Iron Man. He also did From Hell. He also did Elf, Ant-Man, and of course, Bad Boys for Life. So Dan Lebenthal don't come to play. All right, production design, another great, David Brisbane. He's been doing this for a while. One of his classics, My Own Private Idaho. It's a Gus Van Sant film. It's amazing. River Phoenix, Keanu Reeves, great movie. Check it out. But his other notable ones are The Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister. So David Brisbane has got it going on. Okay, Dead Presidents stars the great Larenz Tate. Larenz Tate, for this generation, you guys would know him as the crooked attorney dude or politician guy on Power, book 2. I think he was on book 1 and then he's, I believe, now on book 2. Larenz Tate, I swear, his career when I was in high school was never ending. Just hits after hits. Larenz Tate, notably Menace to Society. This wasn't his first time working with the Hughes brothers. But, you know, one of my favorite performances of his, besides Dead Presidents, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, The Inkwell, loved him in the movie The Postman. Excellent actor. His performance in this movie, I thought, was Oscar worthy. Of course, it didn't get a mention, but brilliant. Movie also stars Chris Tucker. To me, one of his best performances to date. If you don't know who Chris Tucker is, most famous role is Smokey from Friday. He also was in Fifth Element as Ruby Rod. Money Talks. Obviously, the Rush Hour series. Man, is brilliant. Also stars Keith David. Keith David's been around forever. Baby, They Live. Dr. Facilier and Prince and the Frog. He does a lot of voiceover work. He's been in so many things. I'm losing count. He's been in everything. He was great in this movie. Freddie Rodriguez, most notably known for being on 6 Feet Under. Amazing actor. Bokeem Woodbine, the amazing Bokeem Woodbine, who was crazy as hell as Cleon in this movie. Bokeem Woodbine, child, what has he not been in? Jason's Lyric. One of my favorite movies, The Big Hit, and he was really dope. And I think it was season 2 or 3 of Fargo, the TV show. Amazing. And Bushay Wright, fans would know her as Blade's mom. That's probably one of her most notable roles next to this one. She's amazing. Rose Jackson is in it. Clifton Powell, his crazy ass, and the amazing Terrence Howard. Before he was the Terrence Howard. Smaller roles, but appearances: Jennifer Lewis, Isaiah Washington. The list goes on. Great film. Martin Sheen has a really great cameo at the end, too. Plays the judge. Anyway, so Dead Presidents is about a young African-American man. When we meet the character, Anthony Curtis, he is graduating from high school at the beginning of the film, along with his friends, which are played by Chris Tucker and Freddie Rodriguez. They all end up in Vietnam together. But for me, Dead Presidents is a film about loss of innocence amongst many other major subjects. But I feel like the core is when we meet Larenz Tate's character, Anthony Curtis, at the beginning of this movie. He's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, wet behind the ears, still super green, young, just learning the ropes of life. At one point, he gets kind of suckered and bullied by Terrence Howard's character, which he later whoops his ass when he comes back from Vietnam. Great scene. He looks at Keith David, who's running numbers, and, a kind of low-level, low-brow criminal type, but wise, and gives him good advice. He takes all that in at the beginning of the film. His girlfriend, played by Rose Jackson, who he's in love with, and her younger sister, who was definitely in love with him, played by Nabushe, right? Forgive me if I'm saying her name wrong. I looked up to try to say her name correctly. All these characters are all important because they play such a major role at the end of the film as well. But basically, Anthony Curtis's character, he goes to Vietnam. You see him lose his innocence and grow this wall and callous from war. He returns back to the same neighborhood. A lot has changed, obviously. He finds out while he's in Vietnam that his girlfriend, played by Rose Jackson, is pregnant. So he knows that he has a daughter waiting for him when he gets back. But in typical fashion of conscious filmmaking and writing, the movie highlights how the struggle was light before it went to war. He goes to war. Him and his friends go to war to return to a bunch of bullshit. We've got protests, no counseling, no way to acclimate themselves back into society. He ends up moving in with the girlfriend. They live in absolute squalor. His PTSD is really bad. This is the second film to show PTSD from Vietnam specifically so well. The other film was Jacob's Ladder. Not the remake, but the original with I can't believe Tim Robbins. Woo! Tim Robbins. Anyway, but the PTSD scenes with Larenz Tate in this film are so great and so poignant and vital. The movie really shows you what this young soldier, who now is back in civilian life and trying to adjust. He's got a kid to take care of. There's a lot of civil discontent, civil unrest. There's all these protests. When he runs into, at one point when he returns, and obviously he gets back with his girl and meets his daughter, her sister pops up. The sister is no younger, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed herself. She is also grown and lost her innocence and clearly still has an attraction to Anthony. Shout out to Nabushe, because Larenz was fine in that movie. He's short, but he's fine. But, you know, she's joined the Black Panther Party. She sits him down and she tells him how, you know, you guys were pawns for the war. It was no place for the black man. No place for any man, really, but definitely no place for the black man. The movie really highlights social issues back then. And it shows how the government everyone was expendable to them. These soldiers go and fight this war for y'all, and then they return and they can't get the proper resources to live. This movie totally showed that. The lack of proper resources to live, so much so to the fact that him, Keith David's character, Chris Tucker, Freddie Rodriguez, at one point they go and get Bokeem Woodbine, and they decide that they're going to form like Voltron and rob an armored truck to get money. Everybody's broke. So basically, as a callback to the whole Marine thing, because they were recon Marines when they were there specifically, they used their skills from the military to plan out this heist to rob this armored truck. Obviously, the heist doesn't go as planned as it does in any movie. And a whole lot of shit goes down, and he ends up in prison at the end of the film. This is a great movie because it shows this person's journey of his life. It's basically this, it's the story of this young man, and you watch him lose his innocence, goes and fights for his country to come back to nothing, to shit. Uses his skills that he learned while fighting in the war to try to rob an armored truck to try to pay some bills and live, because it wasn't working. At one point in the movie, he ends up working at a butcher shop, which exacerbates his PTSD. His nightmares were terrifying. And he ends up losing that job because the economy's bad and the store closes. Like, this movie has such high stakes because there's so much going on to this character. The Anthony Curtis character does not catch a break the entire film. He starts off cool because he doesn't know. But once he crosses over into Vietnam, everything else after, the stakes are high as shit. It's a great movie. Terrence Howard, he only has 2 scenes in the movie. Extremely memorable scenes. Clifton Powell, I think, has 3 scenes. He plays a pimp in the movie. Amazing. Amazing. And the movie is loosely based off of Haywood T. Kirkland. Let me get his name right. I wrote it down. Haywood T. Kirkland. He was an Army vet that got back and ended up robbing an armored truck in face paint as well and went to prison. The movie also took different situations. There was a situation with the Black Liberation Army. They incorporated that because the younger sister in Bushay Wright's character was actually a part of the Black Panther Party. She gets involved in the heist too. Movie's fantastic. It's a great film. I think it's super underrated. But when I was in film school, there were different examples that we were given as a character's loss of innocence. For me, Dead Presidents is a great representation of a character's loss of innocence. And, it's a film where you get to watch the journey of this young man and his friends. And you watch him start off a certain way and arrive a whole other way that you wouldn't even expect. It's a great film. I encourage you guys to watch it. It is available to stream on multiple platforms. I personally rented it on Amazon Prime. It was $3.99. Anyway, Dead Presidents by the Hughes Brothers. Check it out. It's a great film. Let me know how you think in the comments. And it's Sunday. Happy Father's Day. We got a new week ahead, so be positive, be nice to each other, and drink lots of water.